You are the chosen one.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Choose One Studios' Let's Play of Lufia 2. As you'll remember last time, we'd just gotten the door key from the lizard man thing. And the door key being the key to the cave that leads to Sundletan. Very great description there. But, with that out of the way, here's the door key. And here we are. North is the dungeon. We don't have a reason to go there yet. And that enemy encounter was just 2 spiders, so no point you having to watch that kind of thing again. Here we are in Sundletan, but as soon as you move, there's a horrible, horrible earthquake that makes Otto freak out and lose his mind. But no one else seems to care. Let's figure out why. Ooh, that earthquake was a pretty big one. Really? That's really all you're gonna say? Interesting. My grandpa said that a master catfish in a cave caused the earthquakes. Is that true? The adults say that it's wrong, but I believe my grandpa. Anyone remember any rules about RPGs? Anything about old people say things, or animals, or children? You should. Did you know a huge catfish makes earthquakes? To the north is a cave enclosed by a lake. Legend says the catfish monster lives in there. So an old man in the square started to say things like that catfish caused the earthquake. Such a problem, you know. The kids started to believe what he says. Such a terrible, terrible problem. That old man's crazy. He says a catfish caused the earthquakes. That's just nonsense. What causes earthquakes anyway? Is it a giant man stomping or something? Tectonic shifts. Or catfishes. Master Catfish going mad at the lake cave caused the earthquakes. Adults don't believe me. I'm a crazy old man. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Well, here's that wonderful tea shop. Hey, Maxim, I didn't know you were in Suns. This place has great tea. Gives energy, see? Hello, what would you like? And tea is a weird item. Green tea is a delicious green tea popular with people the world over. I honestly still don't know what this crap does. It makes absolutely no sense to me. The other ciders all have 2 uses. They restore attack points when used during battle, or restore health when used at the party status screen, to varying degrees, which is just sort of weird, at least to me. But I really don't bother with it, because there's other better items that do what cider, tea, whatever it is, does anyway. So we have 1 place left before the shop. Yawn. Oops, excuse me, I haven't slept much the last couple of days. It's the earthquakes, day and night, and always suddenly. Can't sleep a wink. I'm sorry, I'm just so sleepy. Excuse me for a bit. Zizzes, zizzes. Zizzes, So, yeah, the people in this town are all pointing us in the direction of the lake cave. So, let's head over to the shop. I teach battle secrets. What do you wish to know? I already know all of them, so I'm going to teach those to you personally. Next thing we have to see here is we could buy a dagger. It's all right, but the battle knife has Thunder Blast as its IP attack, 1.5 times more damage than normal attack, only against monsters and vulnerable to thunder, which is very useful to keep in mind. But we're going to get some stuff that's going to make that obsolete very soon. So there's no point in picking that up. What's more important is to grab ourselves some armor. So, let's see here. Sell off the small knife that we never really needed in the first place. We might end up needing to grind a little bit of money, just because without getting some new equipment, this place is really going to suck. Because the battle knife, and the dagger, and the rapier, all this good stuff. We already have the rapier. We can't use the whip, which is a hint that someone else might be able to. Obviously. The battle knife is weaker than the dagger, but the dagger has no special attack. For armor, the cloth armor is definitely a great improvement. With another 3 defense. The cap is good, protects your head. And to get the cap and the cloth, or rather the hide armor, we're going to need a little bit more gold. And since we don't want to die in the next dungeon, we're going to want to get that gold. So I'll be right back with you after a brief little grinding session. Promise it won't be all that long, just enough to get the money that we need. And welcome back, everyone. We ground up just about 500 gold and gained a level in the process. That wasn't really the intent. As even the innkeeper mentions, there are a lot of earthquakes, so you might wake up in the middle of the night, but we're going to want to heal before we go into the dungeon. Just a good idea all around. He'll ask you if you know about capsule monsters. I want to keep that one a surprise, though. So, we'll talk about that one when it comes up. Let's see if we can grab that new armor now, though. And that, and... okay, that just upsets me. I think we're going to grind up just enough to get that knife, and then we'll go on. I know that might sound like a lot of grinding, but we're not really getting very much from it this early in the game, and trust me, it's easy enough without it, but I want to show off all the IP attacks that we can get this early in the game, so I'll be right back with you after we get enough money for that. And welcome back. Now that we have the Battle Knight, the rather 250 gold, we need 200. We've got that equipped, gives us a nice healthy little boost to our attack, and most importantly, will be very useful against the boss we'll be encountering. But, time to go on. This dungeon is where we start to see some more inventive puzzles. This one is not one of them, granted. All you need to do, smack that up, pick up these pieces of bridge, and lay them down. But, the good thing is, we do at least have a new enemy encounter. This one is the mosquito. Just to show off, it has the same thing. Not very impressive, but it gives a little bit better experience in gold, which is nice. Also, we have the first upgrade, palette swap, whatever you want to call it. It is the blue jelly. They're definitely a lot stronger than their red jelly counterparts. As opposed to just taking one hit and dealing no damage, they deal... before that armor, they were dealing about 16 during grinding, but I thought I'd show them off here so they were guaranteed. They generally come either with a red jelly or with a blue jelly, and they can be kind of nasty for this early point. But now we have another one of these suckers. Let's just get you. That was just a mosquito and a moth, so nothing you haven't seen before. Now, this is a very interesting puzzle. There are 3 enemies you see here, and this might not even look like a puzzle, so you might not really think this room is very important. But we'll start out by taking on these eagle enemies, as they are the strongest thing in this room. And the eagle enemies are very powerful. It's really worth it to, if you take enough damage, throw down a strong spell. There are MP recovery spots in this dungeon, and dive is just kind of nasty. So, for the beginning of fighting eagles, you are going to be needing to use magic to keep yourself alive, or dropping potions. But potions cost gold, and smacking something in the face with your sword and using healing magic is free. So that's the approach I recommend. I swear, enemies do have special animations for their attacks eventually. We just haven't gotten to see anyone do it yet, or that knows how to use them. So, now let's see here. We're going to take on the frog enemy. Or they're going to take us on. Frogs have the same attack animation. They also have a very odd tendency to... show it off. Ribbit, ribbit. Checking situation. It does absolutely nothing. You're the first enemy that does this. It becomes sort of a trend. Occasionally an enemy will just do something like that. Ribbit, ribbit. There's a frog enemy, common thing. They will check the situation. It has no effect on affecting their battle AI. It just means they wasted their turn. And this little sucker is a beetle. Easy enough, quick enough. And kill a plunge. And a nice hefty amount of gold experience. Now, those 3 things appear. And the little hint is, shoot the arrows in the right order, and you will find the way. But what's the right order? Well, that's the order we fought them in. It completely depends on the order that you chose, so it changes every time. At least every time that you decide to go a little bit differently. So you can't just read a walkthrough for that to get the answer. We need to know essentially what the theory is behind it. And here we have the Insect Crush. This is a nice nifty little sword. As you can see here, it raises our attack and our gun. And Insect Crush, a very effective sword to use against insects and spiders, with a special bomb attack, tackle all enemies. Which is a very recurring IP attack, but that's actually a very powerful sword for this point in the game, because not only is it good damage, but bug enemies are still very common, so you do about double damage to the most common enemy type in the game. Down here also, is an MP healing spot, and an HP healing spot, so if you need to, you can grind out a couple of levels in this room. But I want to try avoiding doing any unnecessary grinding for anything besides, oh crap, we need the equipment in this town. Better hurry up and get it. But we didn't fight that sucker earlier, so we're going to just get it out of the way now. And with the Insect Crush, that becomes, well, not even a minor nuisance. Be brave and dive in, and you will find the way. See these little X's right there? Are sort of like dirt scuffs. You step on one, you fall, and that one opens the path. This one, however, is a save point. Useful to have here, I'd say, especially since there's an eagle right there, and as said, they're currently our most dangerous enemy. We could go on from here, of course, but we'd miss out on some treasure, and I don't want to miss out on any treasure in this run if I don't have to. Oh, this puzzle, by the way, there are 3 switches here. It's shaped like such. Whatever direction you have 2 of them pointing in, that door opens. Like so. With the other door to open, push them in the other way, which we'll see shortly. But this is the way that's only to get a simple treasure, well, a couple treasures. So rather than worry about, you know, going that way first, we're just going to go this way, take a, you know, and then we'll continue on with the dungeon. This little thing here says, behind the wall lies the path to the ordeal that awaits you. But before we worry about the ordeal, there's a little secret passage, similar to some of the ones in the other cave. Walk back here, and there's a chest. Found Miracle. So, miracles are a very useful item. They completely restore fight power and completely restore HP and MP. What does that mean? Well, they work as, essentially, revives, and as elixirs. You get all of your HP back, all of your MP back, and if you're dead, you're not dead anymore. This, however, is the gauntlet we have to run in order to get that treasure chest. It starts out with just a spider, but as you can see, we have some more difficult enemies on the way too. And because we have that nifty new IP, I'm going to show that off now. Bomb attack. Attack all enemies. It doesn't do a lot of damage, and as you can see, it doesn't completely drain the IP bar either, which is very useful. And they've already refilled it back up for me by dealing damage. So, get a nice little experience boost, gold boost, and no worries. But that did give us a little bit of a pound, so you're going to want to keep healed even if it's easy. But, time for another enemy specifically geared for the Insect Crush. Always nice to have a cave filled with enemies that are weak against the weapon that cave gives you. Just another spider, very simple. That eagle was even just alone, and 2 beetles isn't really any harder than 1. Even bringing in 2 mushrooms, which were one of the most difficult enemies in the previous dungeon, isn't intimidating, because they're not an eagle. And while eagles can be very dangerous, we are rewarded with the Speedy Ring, our first ring-type accessory. Rings are very useful, not only in the fact that they boost your stats, but they generally have some IP to them. The Speedy Ring partially increases agility. Brief increase, only 10, but it does also increase our defense by a nice 5, and gives us Fake, a spell which increases agility during battle, which is a weird name for that spell since it's not a fake. But I think it's more sort of the, you know, you're fast enough to be able to fake people out. At least that's how I've always justified it ever since Lufia. Oh well. So we're just gonna keep pushing our way through. And take out another pair of eagles, which yielded, quite thankfully, level up. we supposed to do in this room? Well, there's all these blocks. I guess we could form something with them. Like, see, some kind of a square, maybe. Well, that didn't do anything. Wonder if... Oh, there's some stairs under this one. This puzzle is darn impossible. Create a triangle pointing upwards. This one, not really all that difficult. This dungeon is still not hard, but at least it starts showing you that it has puzzles other than, hey, see that little pressure plate over there? Put some crap on that. Nothing behind these ones, but it's always good to slash any of these kind of things you see, as they can lead to treasure. But here, we found the lake key. Lake key. The key to the lake cave. That'll definitely be useful. Most dungeons have a key. Without that key, you're not getting through, so you'll want to try and look for them if you can. Feel free to make use of your IP rather heavily, especially while you're still dealing with just Maxim alone, because it restores rather quickly when you're the only one getting damage dealt to you in that instance, and because it's there for a reason. Make use of it. Down here, we have a nice little treasure chest all on by its lonesome. Contains another power potion, which once again we'll be leaving alone. That's okay, it won't feel too terribly lonely. Promise. And if at any point during this dungeon you do feel like, hey, I'm getting the crap beat out of you, well, there's just one thing you need to remember. There's no need at all to be worried in this dungeon. Also, what's useful, those dirt piles will stay down. I think you have to leave the entire dungeon for that to reset, so you don't have to resolve it every time. But the use of the arrow to get enemies non-aggressive, stunning them in place, you can just run back here really quick and get healed up, which is kind of nice. I won't be abusing that in future dungeons or anything. It's more just the sort of thing that, hey, it's kind of useful to know, and especially if you decide to play through this game, there's nothing wrong with using those pads, especially if you're a newbie. They put them there on purpose. So we'll just fall down here again. Ready to fight that enemy again. It's time for us to continue on to the final portion of the lake cave. Again, we have more pieces of bridge, but strangely, we have an island in the middle, a little switch that can change the water. You can't carry pieces of bridge downstairs, so we're going to need to make it so that we can get that piece of bridge down there over to here. But if we put it down anywhere that goes into the water, we won't be able to pick it back up. So, what we need to do, once we've gotten across, steal one of these pieces, go over here, and as it hints with the different texture, drop it right here, set it down, we can then grab it up from here, drop it there, and we've almost reached the end. Due to their tendency to ribbit, I admit I will always fight those stupid little froggies. Now, as hinted at before, even though the insect crush is stronger, we're really going to want the battle knife for this battle, as it greatly increases our survivability. But it's time for us to go through, using the lake key, and what do we have here? Looks like we've got ourselves a catfish. Good! Someone's finally made it this far, although I never expected anyone so weak. No use fighting. Go home before you hurt yourself. The earthquake. Is it you who's responsible? I was bored. I created the earthquake hoping somebody would come to me. The earthquake is troubling everyone. Give it up. Well, I'll think about it. Only if you beat me, of course. That won't happen. So then the battle starts. This is a more dangerous battle than facing so we'll definitely want to be using our IP as much as possible. It only does about 10 more damage than our normal attack does, as you can see, but every little point of damage, especially when your enemy actually has magic, and it's rather powerful magic too. If you're a little bit lower level than I am at this point, quick too, you can use the fake ability of the speedy ring to increase your agility, but it shouldn't really be all that necessary. And while this is the first boss awesome attacks that actually weren't concerned, as opposed to the previous boss that they couldn't make it do really well. Good thing is, at least it's really good music, right? I'll actually link to my favorite OC remix of this game. It's at least still on the OC remix website. After this video, it'll be down in the description. Which means you could already have seen it. Oh, spoilers! It does still collect wiggle, don't get me wrong. But at least it's doing something else too. It's better in Sweater Gold. You can get the Catfish jewel from it, but it's not worth just continually refining it, because you can get the Catfish jewel somewhere else too. So, we only need 95 experience for the level. Got some gold. I give up. I'll never roll out another earthquake. So please forgive me. Perhaps I'll sink under the lake and sink for a while. Yes, that's what I'll do. So, another boss defeated. Another heroic goal. The main plot still hasn't kicked off yet, obviously, as going town to town helping old men sleep is not really in Maxim's job description. And he is a monster out there, sure, but that's his job description, not what he's supposed to be doing as an adventure, as a world saver, as the epic quest Iris told him about. So what are we going to do about that? Well, first things first, we'll want to head back to town. As, I think, a nice refreshing stay at the inn is the very least of what we've earned.